right? So this is exactly the approach, which is that it is not a distant or a disconnected engagement. It is face to face, but it is through a technology platform or a technology intermediary. And currently we are using Zoom because it gives us many of the features and functionalities that we need to be able to do a powerful coaching session. Now, I have been doing online coaching now for about 10, 15 years because my clients have lived all over the world. They work for different companies and they are used to working online and virtually. I am used to working online and virtually. So actually the technology interface is really no barrier in terms of the effectiveness of coaching. Obviously, some basics have to be there. The platform has to be robust. Both sides have to have a good broadband connection. There needs to be a certain kind of an etiquette so that we are not talking over each other, right? But if you keep these three, four things in mind, really the distance is not a problem. But look at the positives, right? I can have a breast cancer experienced Sherpa who's based in Mumbai coach a breast cancer client who's based in Singapore, and location is no longer a problem.
So this is great for a one-to-one, right?
Yes.
When it's one-to-one coaching. How do you handle a group? I mean, is it the same? Is it different? What are the dynamics there?
Yeah, groups are very different. But again, now what this lockdown has forced people to do is to get comfortable with the idea of webinars. Right now, there are more webinars than participants being offered. People are in fact facing webinar fatigue.
Okay.
But what people have realized is that yes, a webinar may never be able to fully replicate the experience of a small group of people in a nice location, in an offsite, where we have the chance to have these informal conversations over coffee and lunch and at the end of the day and so on. We might not be able to do that many experiential activities, movement activities, things like that. But it is also forcing facilitators and coaches to learn how to innovate within the constraints of the webinar format.
And would you be able to share some ideas that you'll have tried out and implemented, which maybe otherwise in the earlier ways of doing online, you all did not know? Some technologies that you've used to try and make it a little more interesting?
Yeah, for example, one thing that we do is, we conduct these short practices. We conduct a presence practice, for example. And so things like a presence practice, it's perfectly fine to do it long distance, even if you're not in the same room, because somehow your tone of voice, your expressions creates an energy, and that energy can in fact transmit, even though it's going via the internet, right? We used to be concerned about that in the future, but we are really no longer concerned about it anymore. Then, for example, there are some really nice apps. So as you know, we use this app called Poll Everywhere.
Right.
And we have been using this functionality called creating a word cloud, where 50 or 100 people who are on the webinar can simultaneously create a word cloud and actually see what each one is saying, right? So I think what's going to happen is that even the app developers are now going to understand that, look, this is the new reality. And how can we help people make these webinars or these large group meetings? Zoom, for example, offers a fantastic functionality called breakout rooms.
Right. Yeah, that's where you can quickly put people in different rooms and then they come back and all. That's amazing.
So it's the same thing like we would do in a workshop. So what you're finding, at least what I'm finding, is that yes, it's not the same, but it's not 100 or 0. I think the webinar format and the online meeting format does give us a lot of wonderful options. There are many options. Zoom is not the only one. There is Microsoft Teams, there is WebEx, and so on. All of them have their pros and cons. But I would say to people, don't let technology come in the way. Use what you can and innovate where you can't.
That's really nice. Can you talk about some of the things that you're using, like technology, like you used technology to develop HHQ? So most people will now get the opportunity to experience that.
Yeah.
What are the other technology? A website you had prior to coming to us in 2017 will just help you to maintain that and keep it going with various changes that you wanted to do. You've always had the ability to broadcast through email and send out consistently information on your newsletters to your audiences. What are the new technology that you use that, and you get to share anything that has helped you, and in what way it has helped you?
Uh, yeah, so we used to be quite active on social media even in the past, but our focus tended to be Facebook. And that's because our business focus was around cancer and Cancer Awakens. And Facebook was a good platform to reach people with common interests and so on and so on and so on. But I would say for the last maybe 6-8 months, since we have really started putting some effort behind the Stress to Swasthya program, which is targeted more towards the corporate audiences, then Facebook is probably not the right medium to reach out to them, and LinkedIn is probably a much better medium to reach out and connect with them. In fact, many of my friends have both a LinkedIn profile and a Facebook profile, and they have made it very clear that for this kind of thing, please write to me on LinkedIn rather than on Facebook. So I think what we have learned over the last 6 to 8 months is how to use LinkedIn as a means of communication with our corporate audiences. And this is where you guys have helped us in terms of learning how to do that, how to target people, how to select people. It's very important to remember that even from my previous advertising days, that to have a small number of qualified audience is better than having a large number of a very unqualified and a very mixed audience.
So, what were some of the targeted audience that you got on LinkedIn? And can you share a little bit more about how that has worked out? You're finding exactly the kind of people that you're looking with, the sales navigator and stuff. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. So, given the fact that we want to reach CEOs, CXOs, CHROs, because they are taking a enterprise level view of their organizations, right? It's one thing to reach out to people who are at the middle level, who are at the junior level, who may be the ultimate beneficiaries, but the decision makers in those organizations are always the senior people. And therefore, if we have to help those senior people understand the importance and the relevance of, say, the Stress to Swasthya program or the risk of burnout on productivity, then we must be able to reach them with a kind of a targeted focus. And you have showed us that LinkedIn gives us the opportunity to be able to do that. And so what has happened in terms of the benefits for us is that, fortunately, I as an individual and our organization has good credibility. We've been at this for a while. We've been working with blue chip clients. If people do a reference check, they will generally hear good things. So when I reach out to people and say, I'd like to connect with you, and most people will look at my profile, they will say, okay, this is a person who's probably worth connecting with. So therefore, we have been able to build our network on LinkedIn, and we have been able to reach the right kind of people. And we are now in the process of actually engaging them to say, look, how can we help you and your organization in this domain of stress, well-being, burnout, etc.